Okay, so today we are interviewing a past client of ours. Teresa is one of our favorite clients. We just did a full siding replacement on this whole house, and this house has undergone a massive transformation. You can see the before pictures. And Teresa, can you tell us a little bit about your experience working with us and what it was like?
I thought that it was an interesting experience, having never had any sort of experience with major construction on a home.
Sure.
So I wasn't sure what to expect.
Right.
I found that essentially most of the communications were constant and good. I did have a couple times when people would show up and say, well, I wanted to work, but you weren't home. And I'm like, well, let me know.
Right. Sure.
So I did have that a couple times. But by and large, it was good. There were a couple of unfortunate things. The painter we hired originally could not complete the job. He had an illness, he had a problem, and so we had to change painters. But I did find that working with Jayton was just a total pleasure. I really enjoyed him.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching him mentor people as he worked.
And that's how we met, was through that other painter, Nick, right?
Yeah, we met through Nick.
Yep,
That
that's
was
right.
it. He painted a friend's house over there, across the street from us, and so it was like, I said, you got your house painted. Who painted your house? Because I was wanting to get mine painted, and
Sure.
she said, well, this guy did it, and I'd had somebody else come out, and it was a bad experience with the first person who came out, and then Nick came in. It was just wonderful, and then he said, I got a guy who does siding, and it just escalated from there, and it was like I knew I had to replace the windows because all that happened, and just get it all done at once. And
Sure. And was the experience, like when you actually had the windows replaced, how was that? Was it faster than you expected? Was it on time with what you expected?
It was okay. The windows were late, but that was a nationwide problem.
Right.
It was much faster than I expected.
Nice.
Much faster, much cleaner. They actually did the vast majority of cleanup, and so all I had to do is dust some things, and then I myself went in and refinished the sills because I wanted them done the way I wanted them done, so I just did the sills myself.
Sure. How did you feel about the team, like working on both the inside and outside of your home? Do you feel like your home was respected during the process? Do you feel like your stuff was cared for?
I felt like it was just, I gave you, when we first met, your team needs to treat me like they would want someone to treat their mother.
100%.
And that's really how I kind of felt like it was, that they were treating me with respect, and that if someone were doing their mother's house, this is what they would want done.
Appreciate that. Yep. It is kind of a sensitive situation with you being a widow, and there's a lot of contractors kind of have a bad rap for maybe taking advantage of people, and so we want to be sensitive to that. And I'm hoping you felt like that was reciprocated. So yeah.
I did. I didn't have any problems with it at all. I felt like it was just essentially it was like I told Jayton, what am I going to do? All my construction sons are leaving.
Sure, right. So what was the reason that you originally decided to remodel the house? Like you started with a painter. Did you find out that the siding needed to be done? Was there hidden damage? What was that looking like?
Well, and so it was just my homeowners association asked me to get my house painted, and so that's where it started. I just wanted to get it painted. And a couple of people had said that they would help me paint it, but that kind of fell through for them. It's got some challenging areas. There's that huge wall on the one side.
Sure.
And you really do need special equipment to paint that. So then when Nick came by, we discussed it and walked around, and he said, there's good siding left, but there are places where your siding has got to be repaired.
Sure.
And I just thought, well, at that point, why not just do the whole 9 yards? And then I was looking at the windows and discovered weather stripping falling out, but the old windows were nearly 50 years old at the time. And so it's like, they've got to go. Yeah, they're double pane windows, had fog.
Yeah.
And it was like, let's just do everything. And then I wanted I knew the slider needed to be replaced because it was sounding like a freight train. And the front door was it was dated. That was the main problem with the front door, just totally dated. And the screen door was slightly broken.
Okay. Did you feel like when we went through the design process, right? Because we did do a design on this house, even though it seems fairly straightforward, I wanted to make sure that you knew exactly what you were getting. Yeah. Did you feel like you were we were on the same page as far as like what was going to be built, what it was going to look like, what the kind of the paint color was, all that kind of stuff?
I did. I felt like that. And it's always fun because I got to look at this and go, I want to change things up a bit
Right.
from what it is. So I got to choose. So I chose the shingle up here on the top instead of having it be just all lap board.
Okay.
Because before it was just the vertical siding, and now it looks really different even without the paint job. Even if I put the same colors, it would look really, really different.
What was your overall experience with the design process?
Oh, it was fun.
It was
I
fun.
would say fun. It just was a lot of fun because I'd never gotten to do something like that before, and you explained everything clearly. This is what it needs to do. This is what needs to happen, and so we went through, and I felt like you worked with me and explained, okay, this will work, this won't work, and why.
Sure.
So I learned a lot through the process.
How did you feel about when we got to the end of the design, we did the trades day, we did the final proposal? Did you feel like at that point, like, okay, this is what was your feelings at that point? When we went through the design process,
Yeah.
and we were getting toward the end, and we got to like that final proposal, how were you feeling at that point?
A little overwhelmed, but a lot of it's just like, okay, this is a big job.
Right.
And that was it. You were very reassuring. You said, it's really not that big of a job. Don't get overwhelmed with this. It's really not that big of a job. It's going to go fast and it's going to get done.
Okay.
And so I felt like that was a very good thing. I didn't have any problems with it. I really kind of enjoyed the process. It's something like I was raised by engineers, and so it's like that kind of process stuff and watching things happen and change is a lot of fun. And then my late husband was an engineer as well, so just like fun stuff. I enjoyed it.
Did you feel like when it came time to, swap paperwork and get the money thing all going, did you feel like you knew exactly what you were paying for?
Yes, I did. And I actually felt like it was a very reasonable price. I did do research and I asked a lot of my friends, when you had major construction done, what did it cost you? And so I felt like it was a totally reasonable price.
Awesome.
And I felt like it was totally wide open. I mean, that was the thing I really appreciated I never felt like there were going to be sudden hidden things pop up. I always felt like what I saw was what I was going to get. And it was totally wide open, totally open book.
That original price that we gave you, were there any differences like from the actual start of construction to finish? Were there any change orders or any hidden charges or anything like that?
I didn't see anything.
Okay, all right. Right on. Can you touch on a little bit your past experience with contractors? You kind of came into this with a little bit of post-traumatic contractor disorder. That's what I call it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So we did have a roofing company come in, and this roof should never have taken 3 weeks to do.
Sure.
But they took 3 weeks. They would come in and show up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or sleep for a couple of hours, work for an hour, and then go home. We came home one day. They had come in. We saw them come in about 10, and I had a couple errands to run. Came back, and they were sleeping on the roof. It turned out they were sleeping off a drunk.
Wow.
On my roof. And it's like, okay, fine. So when we finally convinced the guy that this is not working for us, he sent another roof in, and they were just like gorillas. They dumped garbage all over the yard and stuff like that.
Wow.
And so it was like, okay, this is not. So I had a terrible experience with the roofing, and it was just, they came on like I thought, okay, we thought it was going to be a pretty seamless experience, and it was not at all. So
That's interesting. Even a small project like a roof could turn into a big disaster like that. Yeah,
Yeah, well, and it was one of the favorite things is when the one guy, how they have laughing underneath the roof?
Yeah.
They tried to stand on the lath. It's like, you can't stand on lath. That's a half an inch thick.
Yeah. Wow, that's... Because you had a cedar shake roof originally.
We did.
Yeah. Okay. And then they took that off and resheet. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't stand on that. I mean, you kind of can if you're smart, but not
but
really.
You can't stand right in the middle
No.
of it. So we had a leg come right down through the roof in our dining room.
Wow. That's a big wow. Okay.
Well, my daughter was sitting at the table at the time, and she was in 3rd grade. So that was quite an adventure for her to have a leg come in through the roof through the ceiling over her head. I felt like one of the things I really did appreciate was, first of all, the transparency, and secondly, for the most part, things were done carefully, and when someone came in, and there was actually one person came in and he was doing, I knew it was a bad job, and he was told don't come back.
Right.
By Oleg. Oleg said just don't come back again.
Right.
Because he had the Tyvek just randomly placed all over.
Yep. I think that's important too, being able to pivot from, because stuff does happen in construction, and being able to just kind of, oh, we need to redirect here. Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah. Well, and it was interesting because they did it on the back deck. It's like originally you and I had said, well, we'll paint the railing white, but I liked the look of of the wood so much that we pivoted on that, and now it's not bare wood, but it's the wood. It's not the paint, and I really appreciated the ability to say, hey, wait a minute, I like this better, and have that shift and not have it be a deal. It was just, okay, great, let's do it.
Awesome.
Oh, I was totally comfortable. I was completely comfortable with them. It was just one of those things where I knew, like, okay, I have to run an errand, and if they were in and out, I didn't care. It was just one of those things that it was just, I was comfortable with them. I knew that I had nothing to worry about. I had no concerns. Okay, so first of all, I absolutely love the color. It's like I feel when I come home, this is a house I want to come home to. I love the look of it. I love the colors. I think it's just really nice. I've had one neighbor go, I'm not fond of the color of your house, but by and large, it's been very positive. Like, it makes us feel like we're living at the ocean. It makes us, I had one young man stop by, and he's like, if I painted my house, that's the color I'd paint it. And then I had another person walk by, not a neighbor, but she walks through our neighborhood all the time, and she and her husband is an artist. And he looked at it and goes, that color is the perfect blue. You did such a good job. And I'm just like, oh, wow. I think the highlight was that the communication was usually pretty good. I would say there were a couple times when I think people assumed that I would just always be home and they needed to do stuff, and I wasn't, and so they were kind of like, oh, and I'm just like, well, you have to let me know if you're not scheduled to work and you want to come at a different time. You have to let me know, so I will be here, because I'm retired. I could be here. So there were just a couple times like that, but by and large, I felt like the communication, I felt like everything was transparent. It was like just not, there wasn't anything hidden. It was just, I didn't even ever feel like they're, poor widow, they're going to take advantage of her. It felt like, no, it's not hidden. But what I see is what I get. I would just say that Kyle's a general contractor, so Noble's a general contractor, and so then you're going to have different people working for you, and that's kind of the experience. It was interesting. I already had one friend ask me about it at church, and she said, would you hire him to do work inside your house since he did outside? And I said, yeah, I would, but you have to understand what a general contractor is. And she goes, oh, yeah, I've seen that, and I've seen really bad things. And I said, well, give this a try.
That's awesome.
So that, and then I've had a couple of others where they say, do you know any contractors? Yeah, I do.
That's awesome.